All right, next up we're going to start with the lowest first. So we've got the volume knob or the potentiometer. We've also got the 8 switches, an integrated socket holder, and then the 3-position switch. Okay, the volume knob can only go in one way. There's 5 pins on the bottom and 2 on the top, so just line them up and try to fit them in to the best of your ability. You might have to bend them just a tad. Actually, mine went right in, so no issue there. And then you're going to flip, and then you're going to just simply solder all the leads. So hopefully by now it makes sense why we're starting with the lowest components first, because if we flipped it over and we had a higher component, these components would not stay seated while we're trying to solder them in. So that's why you kind of go in that order. Now if you notice, there's a little bit of give here, so it's possible that this thing, you might want to just wedge something under that corner, or you can use your tape, whichever one you prefer. I'll just wedge something under the corner because I got something sitting here that'll work. So that's just going to hold it in nice and straight, nice and flat. Now again, you can adjust it after if it's not, just simply by adding heat and kind of manipulating it with your fingers. Okay, now I'm just going to go ahead and solder this. Okay, we're going to inspect the joints. So here's the rotary switch or the volume switch. Here are the joints. You can see none of them are bridged. All of them are separate. So that's what you want to see. They're also the little mini volcanoes as we talked about earlier. Those look pretty good. All right, next up we're going to do these 8 switches. These are very straightforward. They only go in one way. You really can't mess it up. So it doesn't matter what color is what. You probably want to just make sure you're happy with whatever colors you have. Sometimes you get all black. Sometimes you get maybe multiple colors. So just lay it out how you think it's going to look best. Okay, so I've decided that I'm going to make blues my ups and downs, and then yellows my right and left on the one side, and red my right and left on the other. So again, it doesn't matter, but that's just what I'm going to do. So to fit these in, you just simply line them up, click them, make sure they work. If they don't work, then obviously you don't want to solder it in, and you want to get a replacement. So these stay in. You really don't have to worry about them falling out. So I'm going to just do these first, and then once I solder these in, I'm going to do the next set. So those are all in, and I'm pretty happy with how they look. So now I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm just going to get to work. Now once again, we're going to inspect the joints. Otherwise, these are important because they also, in addition to electrical, it's also a mechanical connection. Alright, so there we go. Now you can kind of see how mine look. Alright, now I'm just going to rinse and repeat and do these next 4 switches. Same procedure. Okay, the socket for the shift register is next. This is very important, something that you don't want to screw up. You got to make sure that there's a little notch on one of the sides of this. Hopefully you can see that notch. It's right there. On the PCB, there's a silk screen that shows the notch, so make sure that you have your notch on that side. When you're soldering these, just like we had when we were doing the volume knob, make sure that you don't get any bridges, solder bridges while you're soldering these. Yep, that looks pretty good. So I went ahead and corrected the ones that needed more solder, and now we're all good. Okay, now we're on to the switch, and there's also only one way the switch can fit in. So go ahead and just try to manipulate that. Drops right in, and then you want to flip it over. And it should just be able to sit right on the tip of that switch. Yeah, it feels good, so I'm going to go ahead and solder that up. All right, I noticed it was kind of jiggling around. So this is one where I would recommend you tape it. If you tape it down, it's going to hold it flat. So that's going to be a little easier than trying to fix it. Okay, so I went ahead and just added a piece of masking tape on top. As you can see, I poked the switch through the tape, and now it's not jiggling around or anything, so I don't have to worry about my switch moving out of place while I'm soldering it. So once you're happy with that, go ahead and solder it up. So So by default it's in the off position, and then you're going to be able to switch it. Might be a little hot from soldering, so be careful.